Carpentry by NJT is based in the western suburbs and has many years of experience to assist you in sourcing any and all of your carpentry needs. Carpentry by NJT are great supporters of local soccer clubs in Melbourne's western suburbs, including ambitious State League One outfit, Sydenham Park Soccer Club. Home Builders Corp, meanwhile, is a Melbourne-based construction company by the same owners with more than 15 years' experience. Home Builders Corp specialises in new homes and unit developments. With attention to detail, they work to the highest standard to satisfy their customers with a very quick turnaround. For further details about how either Carpentry by NJT or Home Builders Corp can help you, contact owner-manager Nick on 0410 576 018 or via email at nick@homebuilderscorp.com.au. Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Corp are the proud major sponsors of the Football Out West show. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Football Out West show. It is episode 123, and as we start to clock up the episodes, we get ever so close to the culmination of the 2023 season. My name's Tonchi Prusak, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with you here tonight on this lovely evening, Sunday evening. And I tell you what, I can't do it all on my own because it is a big show and it takes a lot to get through it and a lot of assistance, and I could never do it without Steve Curtin, who's here week in, week out. Good evening, Steve. How are you? And a pleasure to have you on the show again.
Yeah, thanks, Tonchi. Good to be here again on a Sunday evening when too much football is barely enough, of course. And yeah, what's so much to go through tonight. And yeah, like you say, the season, only a couple of rounds left in the NPL season. It's staggering. Got some cut football coming up next week, of course, and we're in the midst of the World Cup, of course. Just a little tournament going on at the moment in Australia and New Zealand as well. So plenty happening, but big thanks to everyone getting behind the show. Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Corp, our major sponsors, and all of our supporters. And a special shout out tonight to the Rayman, Brent and Ray. We hope you're having a good night and doing well this week after a tumultuous, a big week for you, but lots to look forward to, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, don't you dare say it's a small thing going on at the moment, a small tournament. It's a massive tournament at the moment.
You don't sense my irony, Tonchi.
Yeah. Continues to break records, attendance records, of course. We're talking about that, but also the action on the field has been very, very hot. And you, speaking of hot, just returned from a little midweek trip up to the Sunshine State to take in the Matildas' second game at Suncorp Stadium. It's not called that for the purposes of this little tournament. It's called the Brisbane Stadium. But aside from the result, which we all know, and blah, 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 the actual build-up, the actual event, how did you find it from your perspective?
Yeah, good. My second time at the Suncorp Stadium, or as you said, for non-commercial reasons in the tournament, Brisbane Stadium. I was there for the 2015 Asian Cup as well, when Australia had a 0-0 with South Korea on a hot January evening, and it was a little bit cooler, good temperatures, and a good venue, certainly packed out, and the atmosphere was great leading into the match. Fortunate enough to have really good seats as well. We were just in the fourth row on the halfway line as well, if you don't mind. So pretty happy about that, and really good, really good view. And you could feel, what was going on out on the pitch. Unlike when you go to a match. I went to that friendly against France at Marvel. Not quite the same. Very good. But yeah, Nigeria came with a plan. They executed it well, and they got the job done. And it wasn't enough for us. And of course, we ended up missing out on getting the points. So we've got a lot to do tomorrow night. It's going to be a tense and stressful occasion tomorrow, 8 o'clock at Melbourne Rectangular Stadium, taking on the Olympic gold medalists Canada, either trying to get a win or at least get a point, and I hope that Ireland can do us a favour. Yeah, a lot to do, and with a squad with a lot of fitness issues, feeling pretty nervous about it. But how have you seen the World Cup? What's been your experiences so far, Tonch?
Look, I haven't got, unfortunately, been able to go to any of the games. Have watched the Matildas, obviously, and from here and there, watching just overall like some of the other games. Look, I'm impressed by the crowds. I really, really am. The diversity of the crowds. Each country seems to bring its own little batch of expats. We are a multicultural country, so there are supporters for absolutely every country. And then, of course, you've got the supporters who adopt a country and what you're not. And dare I say, I venture to say, I'd love to know the figures later, but I'm sure there's been a lot of international visitors and tourists coming here from around the world as well. But look, what I wanted to ask you as Steve was, so leading up to it, like, you got to Brisbane. Was it the day before? You spent most of the day there. How was the build-up outside of the stadium? Were there billboards? Was there a radio advertising, TV advertising? Were there, shops getting into it? Because down here in Victoria, people are starting to click in. I was down in Melbourne yesterday, and you are starting to see it here and there. But what was it like in Queensland?
Yeah, a couple of things are being done better there. Certainly their fan side that they got next to the river on their South Bank location there was a little bit more appealing to attend than perhaps the Fed Square one in Melbourne. A bit more relaxed, a nice lawn to sit on, some good activations. They had a pitch in a little convention centre behind, a little mini pitch. There was a few ex-Matildas getting in there, having a match against each other and youngsters and so forth. So that was good, but also along that precinct as well, just a lot of signage, a lot of flags on all the bridges over the river to indicate that, yes, the World Cup is happening here. So, certainly things should kick into gear in Melbourne next, tomorrow. It's going to be full on, but I think that whole thing about maybe shops and things not embracing the World Cup as much as they should have is a missed opportunity for football, but also for businesses that bought into it. It's at their cost as well. So I won't say shame on them because that's going a bit far, but certainly a little bit more buy-in would be good because I'm not sure whether it's the fact that the World Cup, a lot of the matches are on Optus Sport and people aren't breaking through because they don't have a subscription perhaps, and those diehard football fans do follow the EPL and the like on Optus Sport are certainly sitting at home watching the games and definitely attending the matches, as you mentioned, with the crowd figures being, quite incredible and something that surpasses any tournament before for women's football, certainly surpassing the one 4 years ago in France, a traditional footballing country. So, it's exciting times. It's just good that it's happening. It's a shame to see New Zealand go out this afternoon. They tried as they might in Dunedin, couldn't find that goal. They said they keep it forward about 5 times in stoppage time, but I just couldn't find that goal against Switzerland to see them through. So it's all up to the Matildas now to continue on the hosting pilgrimage towards the final and try and get a result tomorrow night.
Yeah, now we've got heaps to get through tonight. We really, really have got a lot of news, but probably the big news is that our sister podcast, The Game of Two Halves, which is scheduled for tomorrow, 8 p.m. Surprise, surprise, will not be shown on tomorrow night. We're not going to go in direct competition with the Matildas and the Canada game tomorrow. That will be screened live at 8 p.m. on Tuesday night for this week only. For this week only, the Game of Two Halves podcast will be on Tuesday night. We've got a huge episode there, and I will break the news now that we've got a major announcement as far as a sponsorship. For those of you that watch the Game of Two Halves, you will know that we did lose our major sponsor, but we've got a really high-profile organisation has come to the rescue. In addition to that, Councillor Eddie Contel from the local city of Greater Geelong Council, he'll be on to talk about the G21 soccer strategy. That's a massive document, and it's now calling for public feedback, talking about the further development or the further growth of football in Geelong. In addition to that, the chairman of the Geelong Region Football Committee, Mike McGuffie, will also be joining us as well, and hopefully we'll be working on another guest. But that's a huge show.
Yeah, that's exciting, Tonchi.
Yeah, sometimes it's boring talking about the administration side of things and the council and this and that, but it is so important. So I'd urge all players, all supporters, all spectators, all administrators, all fans of the World Game, not just necessarily of the Geelong region, but the wider Geelong region to tune in this Tuesday. It's going to be huge. Speaking of huge, we've got two massive guests tonight, Steve. One is talking about promotion. The other one's talking about relegation or fighting off relegation. Tell us about the
staying alive, maybe.
Staying alive, the Bee Gees, Tell us about our guest tonight.
Yeah, so from St Albans Saints, who had an important win yesterday with their season on the line, we've got their manager, Ryan McGUFFIE. They picked up their 5th win of the season yesterday. Ryan McGUFFIE in his first season as senior manager there at St Albans, obviously a former player there in the past. And we've got a player formerly of Melbourne Victory. These days, he's the coach of Western United's NPL side in the NPL2, which is nominally their under-23 side for Western United. Some really good young talent in that squad, and gee, they're going along nicely, getting a win against Kingston in a top-of-the-table clash yesterday. They're going along very nicely, and look, they might find themselves, as it stands, looks like they're going to be in the top flight next season.
Well, you never say never. There's still 2 more rounds to go, both in the NPL Victoria and the NPL Victoria and NPL2 Victoria competition. That's why we're going to be talking to these two gentlemen tonight. Wow, really exciting time. That competition of chaos is living up to its name, and it's very exciting. And we're
looking forward to speaking to DIOGO FERREIRA for the first time. It's going to be very exciting.
And in addition to that, we'll also tie in all the latest news that's happening with regards to the National Second Division as well. We were hoping to get Nick Galatas, the chairman of the Australian Association of Football Clubs, on tonight. Wasn't able to make it tonight. Hopefully we might be able to get him maybe even next week. But there's a lot of news happening there. And Mark Ivkovic, one of our esteemed colleagues who's active in the show tonight, in the chat show tonight, he's also dropped some information, some interesting information during the week. Well done, Mark, on that. So he's a bit of a news hound, as is Brenton Ray. And a big shout out to Brenton, who had a bit of a incident during the week. He had a seizure at work or post-work on Wednesday, and spent the night in hospital in Geelong, but he seems to be recovering. So big shout out to Brenton. And speaking of Mark Ivkovic, he says, now he's accused you, Steve, of doing something rather sacrilegious at the St Albans game on Saturday, putting mustard on your chavapi. I don't know what you were thinking, my friend, but we'll talk about that game, and we'll talk about everything that happened on and off the field after this very, very short break. Lots of news, folks, in addition to Steve's chavapi mustard cake.
Mustard Gate 2023, as it's known. I've got my trip to the Balkans coming up. I'm going to get barred from the whole region, I think.
Mustard Gate. Stay tuned for more details about Mustard Gate 20.23. Muscat Gate. Oh, well, that's another one. All right, good. Don't go away, folks. We're really deteriorating here at the Football Outlet Show. We'll be back.
All right, let's get into the news desk. And where should we kick off tonight for the 30th of July, 2023? Do we talk about that National Second Division?
Let's do that,
straight off the bat? So Football Australia has come and put out an update regarding the process, which follows with, I'm not sure if there's any coincidence or not here, but a tweet that came out from our man that we were just speaking of, the Fabrizio Romano of NPL Victoria, which is, of course, none other than Mark Ivkovic, NPL Victoria commentator and sometimes host of this program as well. He tweeted during the week saying that it wouldn't be going ahead this season, that there's been requests put on the clubs, and clubs such as the Melbourne Knights won't be going ahead. That's not the verbatim of the tweet, but it's close, something around that. And straight away, the message came out from Football Australia, or within a few hours anyway, with the Federation saying that the process remains in full swing, with clubs currently preparing their proposals for the submission in the upcoming weeks. However, if any club wishes to withdraw from the RFP process at any stage, they are at full liberty to do so. At this time, Football Australia will not comment on individual withdrawals while the RFP process is still underway. Football Australia formally commenced the NST project in February 2023 by inviting interested parties to respond to an invitation for expression of interest. Following the conclusion of the EOI phase, a short list of potential participants was developed, culminating in the issuance of an RFP in June 2023 for the 26 shortlisted clubs. As mentioned previously on this show, Football Australia is of the opinion that they believe in fostering a collaborative process. The journey is about refining our shared vision of the NST, thereby strengthening Australian football from the ground up. As such, the RFP phase will include confidential discussions, Tonchi, with shortlisted parties to assist in developing robust, well-considered proposals. The EOI phase offered Football Australia valuable insight into the level of interest and potentially strategy for the NST, and we anticipate the RFP process to be just as revealing. The ultimate aim is to build a strong, sustainable competition, bridging the gap between the A-League and the NPL. The NST is testament to a collective ambition to advance Australian football, offering clubs a bit more home and away league structure with finals consisting of 10 to 16 teams. A lot of words, doesn't say a heap.
Very contradictory, I think. Folks, what do you think? We've already got a lot of comments being made in the thing. There are various allegations, and I'm hearing this from several sources that the submission process or whatever is seeking $500,000 and it being a non-refundable kind of a application fee, if you like. Ironically, in the same week that this has come out, I read an article, I read a report, I can't remember for the life of me now. I was trying to find this article today where it was going on about the A-League clubs are really cutting down, particularly their backroom staff, that they're just hemorrhaging lots and lots of money at the moment. And that's sort of, I guess it's all sort of culminating with the Perth Glory ownership saga at the moment over there. Tony Sage has let go of his license. There's talk about Nick Tanner, one of the original co-owners of Perth Glory, coming back to save the club, whether it's the APL taking over that ownership of that license. There's so much going on at the moment that no one really knows. And I'm going to put Mark's comment there. Melbourne Knights are among a number of high-profile clubs that won't be submitting a proposal due to the demands and lack of information given by Football Australia. And I think that's the crux of it, Steve, the lack of information. If they're saying, okay, it's going to cost you $500,000 to apply, righto, blah, blah, blah. But what's in it? What exactly is in it? Are there TV rights guaranteed? Are there subsidies for travel costs? Because that's going to be the big one. What's going to be salary cap and all of that concept? Now, they may have given that information, but it doesn't seem to be coming out publicly. It's I don't know. It's really, it's just, I don't know. There's a lot of, I wouldn't say misinformation, probably lack of information is the big key. Yeah.
I think the lack of clarity is, without knowing too much about this, and obviously there's the word confidential and confidentiality was mentioned a couple of times in that release by Football Australia. So, hard to know what's going on, and it's a little bit a matter of who will jump first in this one, isn't it? Whether it's the federal or whether.
But even if we like
put something forward for without knowing what's guaranteed and what can they guarantee? I don't.
And look, if we go back to that press release that you just read, there's a comment there saying something like, "Oh, the interest, support, and active participation remain strong." Blah 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 blah. Then, however, if any club wishes to withdraw from the RFP process at any stage, they are at full liberty to do so. Of course, they're at full liberty. One, they haven't paid anything. Well, they probably paid a $5,000 fee originally, but of course they're at full liberty. That doesn't say absolutely anything.
I think
still strong, but
I think the contention they've used there is that they're entitled to do so, but we'll keep it confidential rather than let the public know who's still remaining in the running. So Yeah, it's
good way of getting the public offside already, right from the outset. I remember around about the mid '80s, late '80s or whatever. The National Soccer League was going from the then National Soccer League was going from a 2-conference system, and the then Soccer Australia, Australian Soccer Federation, they were going to cut it. I think this was 1987. I think folks out there in Radio Land will be able to tell me. They actually then had a week by week, almost like a ladder of the top 14 clubs that were going to make it. And there was a whole list of different formulas, criteria, including current performance. So, obviously, you've got current performance at certain points. And it used to fluctuate by week, but you knew, you exactly knew where your club was in that list of 24 clubs or whatever it was. 10 were going to get the cut. That was being transparent, whether clubs, deserved to be in that top 14, that some of them didn't, or in the clubs that missed out that probably should have. But at least they were being very transparent, and you could actually see what was going on. Here, you don't. And now this is the other thing, Steve, that's got a flow-on effect. So we're talking about relegation. We're talking about promotion. Yeah. We actually don't know what's going to go on now with all of the relegation and promotion down from NPL2, NPL3, down into the state leagues, because there was always going to be that flow-on effect that, if 2, 3, 4, 5 Victorian clubs go up into the National Second Division, well, then what's going to happen? That issue is going to, really, I don't know. But anyway, let's move along to NPL Victoria. We're talking about NPL Victoria. We've got our next guest, Ryan McGUFFIE, our first guest. He's going to be coming on very, very shortly, and he has to leave very quickly, so we better get him on right quickly. But we'll get back to this topic a little bit later on. But let's talk about NPL Victoria and the latest round of results, Steve.
Yeah, round 24, as we were saying, season flying by, only a couple of rounds left, and we'll go through these results in chronological order. Friday night was an entertaining contest down at Jack Edwards, but you couldn't split the Cannons and Avondale, that match finishing 0-0. Saturday, things really hotted up with the relegation candidates all in action on Saturday afternoon. The Bentley Greens almost getting a valuable win against Port Melbourne. Danny Dixon scoring a penalty for them on 41 minutes after Valley Cesnik had opened the scoring for the Sharks. Then Chris Drutzis gave the Greens the lead after Bon Scott had been sent off, and then Jalil Regag in the 92nd minute rescued a point for Port Melbourne, which was a disaster, I suppose, for the Greens, who looked like getting all three. Moreland City, they got a crucial win as well, which gets them up the table and outside of the relegation zone for the first time in quite a while. Jaden Brown and Jamie Latham scoring. Jaden Brown scored before he got sent off against the Knights the other week, missed his match, and he's back scoring again. Not bad for a central defender. Anthony Theodoropoulos scoring for Heidelberg. Johnny Astapopoulos was sent off on 72 minutes for the Burgers. Also, the real crunch match was St Albans and North Geelong at Churchill Reserve, and it was a couple of experienced heads that got the St Albans boys the points. Michael Gergich, the captain, on 19 minutes and sealing the win in injury time off the bench. Mo Zwed, a good performance by the Saints, and it sees the Warriors left on the bottom of the table. Altona Magic shooting for that top 6 spot, taking the lead through Jonas Markowski. That makes it 18 goals for him this season, 5 clear on top of Pierce Waring on 13. And then it was the South Melbourne show after half-time. Riak scoring, Shrone a double, and Yagub Mustafa also getting on the score sheet as well for his new side. 4-1 to South Melbourne. The Knights on the road as well were winners too. Luka Kolic scoring on 25 minutes after Yared Rezai had headed home a 16th minute opener for Hume City. And then there was a hat-trick by Gian Albano, 2 goals before halftime and 1 after it before Josh Gulevsky scored a consolation goal for Hume. 4-2 there for the Knights. They continue on in the top 4 there. And Green Gully, well, they could have got themselves back into the top 6 here after Altona had been beaten. But unfortunately for the Cavaliers, it was Grad Damon scoring his 12th of the season. The midfielder, the Dutch midfielder, has been a revelation at the Thunder, scoring that winning goal in that match where Mo Adam was sent off for the Cavaliers after being only on the field for a few minutes. That's Adam's second red card this season after he was sent off earlier in the season in the colours of Port Melbourne. An exciting round all wrapped up last night. No football today in the top tier.
No. Well, we've got our guest on tonight, and he's the St Albans Saints coach, Ryan McGUFFIE. Ryan joins us. Hopefully, we can hear him because we can't actually see him, but hopefully we can get him. Ryan, you there? No, we don't have Ryan. Unfortunately, we'll try and rectify that. Now, look, next week there's the break, obviously because of the Doherty Cup final. So that's going to be played next Friday night. And we'll talk about that in a sec. But in 2 weeks' time, that's when the penultimate round is held. And if we've got the ladder up, we'll pop the ladder up very shortly there. Yeah. North Geelong's got a really tough. I think they've virtually condemned themselves now to a relegation spot. They've got Oakley Tuesday week on the 8th of August.
Yeah, so, and then South Melbourne on the final day. And
then South Melbourne. Look, they've got 2 games at home, and you wish that you could say that Alco Park has become a bit of a fortress for North Geelong, but it hasn't. In fact, they've probably got more of their wins away from home than at home.
Yeah, I think 2 and 2.
Yeah, 2 and 2.
Or 3 and 1 even. Ooh. Yeah. So it hasn't been a very good hunting ground for the Warriors at home. And in fact, that second game will be played on pitch 2, believe it or not, that midweek game. Now, that's next Tuesday week. Then Saturday week, so on the 12th of August, we've got Avondale taking on South Melbourne. What a game that is going to be. And that is going to be the battle for the minor premiership, I take it. That's at Avenger Park. That really is going to be a great game. South Melbourne still has that game against Heidelberg United, and that's going to be – when's that going to be, Steve? I'm not too sure when that game's going to be on. Coming up next week, is it maybe? Yeah, someone will be able to put that in the comments for us when that game's taking place. It's just slipped my mind at the moment when they're replaying that one. It's a little bit tricky with Heidelberg's Australia Cup commitments as well, and their Doherty Cup commitments to fit that into the schedule. Yeah,
so that's going to be really, really interesting as far as the battle for the wooden spoon. But bar that, you've got other games. Moreland City taking on St Albans. Now that's another crucial game. If we can get Ryan on, it'll be absolutely fantastic because then we'll be able to chat about that. But that's going to be, and hopefully we've got Ryan on the show. Ryan, are you there? Ryan, you there? Ryan McGUFFIE. We're trying to get a hold of Ryan. Unfortunately, just doesn't seem to be connecting from his end. But Moreland City taking on St Albans, that's at CB Smith Reserve, Saturday, 12th of August. Now, Moreland really cannot afford to lose this game because Bentley Greens, they are right there. And all they need is a win, and Moreland City are back down. So North Geelong, I won't say they've got that one relegation spot guaranteed, but there's still that fight for that final spot. Now, Altona Magic, they'll host Bentley Greens at Paisley Park that night. That's on the 12th of August at 6:15 p.m. And then Hume City taking on Port Melbourne Sharks as well. So, look, there's some big games. Melbourne Knights at home to Dandenong Thunder on the Sunday, and then Green Gully at home to Heidelberg United. Now, if it's not the battle for minor premiership, if it's not the battle for promotion or relegation, I should say, it's the battle for 6th spot. Altona Magic and Green Gully at the moment going neck and neck for that.
Amazing. Like Green Gully just needed to get a point to get back into the top 6 against the Thunder last night and couldn't do it.
Yeah. It's just right up until the very, very end. There's just some really interesting games being coming.
And that match, Heidelberg and South, Google's telling me it's on the 16th. I'm not sure. Mark's suggesting maybe it's on the 14th of August. Either way, it'll be coming up in between the 2 final rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we'll try and get Ryan McGuffie. Is Ryan there? Ryan, are you there? He's definitely trying to log on. He's definitely trying to jump on, but unfortunately, it just doesn't seem like we've got Ryan available, which is a which is a bugger. Yeah, Mark Ivkovic confirms it is on the 16th of August. So that's going to be a midweek game. I dare say that would be on a Wednesday night. So a really, really important game, that one. So we've got 2 rounds to go. Some really, really electrifying games to finish the season off with. But next week, the Dockley Cup final. That's at, Bentley Green's home ground, Kingston Heath Soccer Complex. Oakley Cannons taking on Heidelberg United. I believe the game kicks off at 7:30. Now, mate, this is a bit of a contentious issue.
Yeah.
Should it or should it not have been staged at the Kingston Heath Soccer Complex?
Look, it's never my preference to travel that far from the heartland of the Football Out West territory. But I think on a more technical note, you could look at, some recent matches taking place at the venue. The surface is not at its best, you'd have to say. I think an impartial person would happily say that, and even a Bentley person would also say that as well. It's not a venue I go very often either. I'm not sure it's the best viewing for spectators, for large crowds to turn up. Plenty of venues around Victoria where there's a little bit more space for, undercover viewing angles, elevated positions to see the match, and maybe more accessible, closer central venues, closer via, public transport and road and what have you. So, look, I'm hoping to get down there and see a few of our Football Out West community down there on the night on Friday. But I'm not pumped about heading down there on a Friday after work.
Oh, we're trying to get Ryan McGuffie. Is Ryan there? We can hear some noise. Hoping it's him. Hello, Ryan. You there? Not having any luck whatsoever, unfortunately. We're just going to have to leave it there. So, unfortunately, folks, we were trying to get a hold of St Albans coach Ryan McGuffie to talk about his team's battle for survival from relegation. A big 2-0 win over sister club North Geelong yesterday. I did speak to the St Albans president earlier today, Ilya Dragicevic, and he did say yes, it was just a relief, able to stave off relegation, if you like. Although they're still not completely out of the woods. They're 5 points off bottom spot, 4 points off second last spot, with still 2 games to come. Moreland City taking on St Albans in the penultimate round in 2 weeks' time. And if we look further afield...
And then they've got Green Gully, the local rivalry in the final of the season on the final day on Saturday the 19th. So, a couple of opportunities for the St Albans side to maybe pick up some more points, particularly against Moreland in their next outing.
But if we do look further afield now to that last round, Avondale taking on Bentley Greens, and then Oakley Cannons taking on Moreland City. So you'd be a very brave man to suggest the St Albans aren't going to avoid relegation, but anything is possible. But mate, let's turn our attention now to NPL2. We'll try one last time. No, we definitely cannot get Ryan, unfortunately. We're going to turn our attention now to NPL2 and the competition of chaos. We're going to try Ryan one more time. We might actually have him here. We're hoping now that we're going to get
Fingers
him.
crossed here.
Here we go. Finally, yes, Ryan, we've got you, Ryan McGuffie.
How are you doing? I've tried it on my computer and now I'm on my iPhone, so apologies for any delay, guys.
No, all good, Ryan. Can you give us a score update from the TV behind you?
Who's winning? Aussie. Yeah, Aussie's winning. How are you doing, guys?
Let's get back to basics. Back to this, mate. We waited long enough to ask you this, but must have been a huge relief. Defeating North Geelong yesterday, 2-0 in the big Croatian derby at Churchill Reserve. And apart from the fact that Steve Curtin put mustard on his Chavapi after the game, the big news obviously is that it looks that St Albans are home and hosed, safe from relegation. Although, look, it's still early days yet. But what was the feeling in the dressing rooms immediately after the game? Was it more of a sense of relief, or was it more of a sense of jubilation, knowing that you're pretty much safe? Let's call it that.
You still there?
Yep.
Yeah, we're waiting.
Oh, you just cut up. Well, to be honest, it was a bit of both. after the game, it was 5-6 losses in a row, and it was just a sense of getting that winning mentality back in, because as I said to the players, losing becomes a habit, and last 3 games are obviously massive for us, but the North Geelong game was huge. We're definitely not safe yet, because obviously a lot of things can happen. The bottom 3 below us, we've still to play Moreland, and Bentley and North have still to play top teams that are playing for something. So it's got to be difficult for them, obviously, to get something. But listen, we just need to focus on the Moreland game and then the Gully game. And if we can get a draw against Moreland, at the very least, then we'll be safe. And that's all I'm focusing on at the minute, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, sorry, Steve, just
go on.
But what about leading up to the game? Was it just run of the mill, sort of was just another game, or did you approach it in a different way? I mean, for us fans watching it, it was like a grand final. It was like a win or kill or be killed, basically, for want of a better term. But how did you approach the game from your own club's perspective?
No, there was definitely a sense of that, Tony. There was definitely a sense of that. The match meant, obviously, it was a massive thing for the club, and we needed to get a result at that match. But I'm obviously, as you guys know, I'm a first-year coach, so I've learned an awful lot in this first year. And leading up to that North Geelong game, there's a lot of things that we tried to implement in the changing room, and obviously as coaching staff as well. But going into that game, so discipline was massive going into that game, and it was important for me as coach to put an onus on the players of the importance of that game. So 2 weeks prior to that game, I'm talking about that game, still thinking about that game. Going into the Avondale game, I'm obviously thinking about the North Geelong game, thinking of the importance of that. And every game's, you want to get the best result you can out of every game that you play. But even going into the Avondale game, I was thinking about getting the best result for the team and the club in the North Geelong game.
And in that Avondale game the previous weekend as well, you mentioned that losing can become a habit, but against the league leaders, you guys put in a good performance and were unlucky to go down 2-1 with probably an error for the first goal and an unlucky pen. They got the second goal via, and you finished with 9 players and scored your goal with 9 players as well in that particular match. Did that sort of give you a bit of confidence going into the game, even despite the suspensions resulting from that previous week?
No, definitely. Obviously, playing in that game, they're a really good side, Avondale, and we knew it was going to be a tough game. But in sport, when you play against the top sides, players find a little bit extra, 5-10% extra to rise to that occasion. What you've got to do is, how can you get that 5-10% extra out of them going into a so-called mediocre game? So when you're playing against Avondale, players will always rise, but when you're playing against teams that are not top of the league, how can you get a bit extra out of them when you're playing against a Magic or a Thunder or another team like that? And that's obviously, as a coach, that's the secret ingredient that you're looking for.
Yeah, look, now next week, obviously the bye, and then, I mean, a big match, an equally big match against Moreland City the following week. What are you going to do with regards to your training regime? Are you going to give the boys a break early part of this week, or no? He's answered my question. Look at that look of determination.
No, definitely not. Like, giving the boys a break would be, I think, giving the wrong message. I think the season's definitely not finished yet, and I think we've only got three weeks of the season left. It's important for me and as a club that we finish the season strong. So I'm going into the last 2 games and I'm wanting 6 points from the last 2 games. So what I need to do from that is I need to approach it in the best way that I can. And given days off coming into this week, I don't think that's required. I think we do train 3 times this week. And then obviously going into the game against Moreland, we'll train Tuesday, Thursday, and then going into that we'll be best prepared going into that match.
Yeah. Will you have a practice game or anything like that? Scratch match, intra-club match next weekend, just to keep that momentum going?
Potentially, maybe play against our under-21 team, just to keep the boys ticking over. Yeah, that's something that we've definitely thought about.
Yeah. And mentioning under-21s as well, Ryan, you called on a few of them yesterday to come off the bench as well, in Luka Cabrera, Anton Bilic and Alex Sepivorovski. What's it like? What's the experience like for those youngsters, and what sort of message do you have for them? Is it something that you find is easy with the setup you have at St Albans to bring them in and integrate them into your senior team, or is it a big step and a big challenge for the boys?
It's a great question, Steve, and I'm a coach that wants to bleed as many young players into the team as I can, but you've got to be very careful of how you're doing that, especially when relegation and there's a lot up for stake. So you've got to choose that at the right occasion. If we'd went 1 or 2 goals up early on in that game, Luca, Anton and Alex would have got a lot more game time. As soon as we were going to 2 goals, I wanted to put them on as soon as I could, because they are the boys, and there's another few boys in the 21s that have got shown a lot of promise that I want to push and I'd like to bring forward, and they've got to play a big part in the future of St Albans, whether it's St Albans or seniors. I think they've got a lot of potential.
Yeah, I know it's still early days yet. I know it's you're focused on these last 2 games of the season, but has there been any talk about next year or preparing for next year as soon as this season finishes?
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. That's if any coach worth his salt is always thinking about preparation is key. So you've got to be thinking about that. And I think at this level, the biggest thing is recruitment and getting in players that are going to be good at this level. So recruitment's massive. I've been a bit stressed out over the last couple of weeks because I've been focusing on survival. So survival is obviously not guaranteed just as yet, but it's the win on Saturday gave us a little bit of hope. So speaking to the committee after the game on Saturday, it was mentioned about next year, and it was mentioned about trying to prepare for next year. So even if I'd love to be at St Albans next year, and if I am, then obviously I need to start preparing as soon as possible.
Yeah,
and there is the transfer window, and the transfer window isn't good for teams like St Albans. It's not something that benefits them. Obviously, you'll be well across the fact that we lost a couple of key players in the transfer window, and we're playing right now without a proper number 9. But what the transfer window does do is when you contact players in that transfer window and they say maybe they can't come at this time, but they'd be interested talking at the start of next year. So that's the preparation that's kind of went in, speaking to players about potentially coming in the transfer window. If not, there's obviously players that are of interest, so you're wording them up about potentially next year.
Ryan, I'll tell you what. Sorry, Steve. I just wanted to say this. I'll tell you what. It was worth getting you on and pushing because that is such a breath of fresh air to hear that from coaches. Because most coaches give that diplomatic answer. Oh, we'll talk about it once the season finishes. But the reality of football these days is you've got to get ahead of your competitors, and to do that, you really have to hit the ground running. Sometimes before the season's even finished. So, yeah. Steve.
Yeah, like on that transfer window as well, Ryan, obviously you lost George Ott and you lost Troy Ruthven. Yeah, how hard has it been setting your team out each week? You've lost a little bit of depth in midfield in Troy, but then also it's hard to replace someone like George Ott up top. You've got Dan Fabrizio up there doing his best, but maybe the out-and-out 9 isn't his preferred role, but he just goes out there and tries to get the job done for you, and as a unit you try and get the results.
Yeah, so fair play to Daniel, because he's not a natural 9, and I've asked him to do that job. And to be fair to him, he's tried his very best. And like Daniel, I wouldn't have brought him to St Albans if I didn't think he was a good player. But playing as a natural 9, any task or any job that I asked him to do, he never hesitates.
Yep. Is he broken out? He's frozen. Looks like
Hopefully, I'm hoping it might unfreeze, but
not
he
looking
was saying
good.
something pretty poignant there as well,
Yeah,
Ryan.
I know.
That's always when the dreaded freeze happens.
Yeah, unfortunately, we seem to have lost that Ryan McGUFFIE there. But I think we got the general gist of what he was trying to say. Look, folks, we're going to take a very, very short break. When we do return, it's going to be time to talk the NPL2 Victoria competition. And we've got our guest for tonight, Western United's DIOGO FERREIRA, joining us on the show. Should be really, really interesting, and we can't wait to have a chat with him. So, folks, don't go away. It's the Football Out West show. We're talking relegation, we're talking promotion, we're talking national second divisions, and we're talking Women's World Cup. Lots to talk about on tonight's show. Don't go away, folks. Carpentry by NJT is based in the western suburbs and has many years of experience to assist you in sourcing any and all of your carpentry needs. Carpentry by NJT are great supporters of local soccer clubs in Melbourne's western suburbs, including ambitious State League One outfit, Sydenham Park Soccer Club. Home Builders Corp, meanwhile, is a Melbourne-based construction company by the same owners with more than 15 years' experience. Home Builders Corp specialises in new homes and unit developments. With attention to detail, they work to the highest standard to satisfy their customers with a very quick turnaround. For further details about how either Carpentry by NJT or Home Builders Corp can help you, contact owner-manager Nick on 0410 576 018 or via email at nick@homebuilderscorp.com.au. Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Corp are the proud major sponsors of the Football Out West show. Welcome back to the Football Out West show. We were speaking with Ryan McGUFFIE, the St Albans Saints coach, talking about survival in the NPL Victoria competition. Well, we're now going to be talking to our second guest about earning promotion and gaining promotion to NPL to NPL Victoria, and it's a great pleasure to have Western United coach DIOGO FERREIRA joining us today. DIOGO, thank you for taking the time out, and thank you for your patience. We're running a little bit late today, but great to have you on the show.
No problems. Hopefully, my internet connection is a little bit better.
Yeah, let's
sounds very clear at the moment, DIOGO. That's a good start.
Yeah, but mate, we just spoke to Ryan McGUFFIE, and it was really interesting about the point that he made, that even though the season isn't done, even though safety hasn't been assured, he still has to have one eye kind of thinking about next season to try and get ahead of the pack. You're kind of in a similar boat, but not so much, because obviously Western United operate on a different system. It's about youth development and getting the best young players, but you're still competing with the Victories and the Cities of this world to get the best possible young players coming up through the ranks. But let's put that aside at the moment. Let's look at, with 2 rounds to go, the state of affairs in NPL2 Victoria. First of all, what a crazy competition it's been this year. Your thoughts?
Yeah, crazy. At least it's been interesting for the neutral.
We've loved it here.
Yeah, I can imagine. Not so much of some of us coaches. We look back at, potentially some of the points you drop and where you could be sitting in the table. But look, it's been interesting. At least it's kept everyone on their toes, and you're not able to go into any game thinking there's just no easy games. There's not, and if you have a look at our season, we've beaten the teams on top and up there, and we've dropped, for example, 6 points to Pascoe that are sitting at the bottom at the moment. So it just goes to show how close the competition has been all year.
And what's been your best takeaway for you as a manager, as the head coach of the team, after spending a bit of time working at the Knights previously and doing a bit of one-on-one coaching now, the head coach of Western United's academy in the NPL? Is there a main takeaway for you from this season so far?
Look, for me, the whole thing is obviously, look, this is my first time being a senior coach, but ultimately, yes, it's about, like you said at the start of the season with the players and the coaching staff, you do want to achieve something, and we want to achieve promotion. That's clear. But our main focus and my main focus is definitely on producing players. So, big takeout for me this year is, is that there is a lot of good quality out there if you're able to work with them. And, you know, I just hope that, you know, as a coaching staff, we've prepared these kids, if it is for NPL, if they do stay with us next year and hopefully we do get promoted or they move elsewhere, even if it is to other clubs in NPL, that they're better players for it, I guess.
Yeah, well, let's go through those results, Steve, and I'll pop the ladder and this current state of affairs with 2 rounds to go.
Yeah, so looking back on Friday night, Dandenong City 3, Northcote City 1. So Dandenong City, they are the clubhouse leaders by just the 1 point there at the moment. On Saturday, it was Pascoe Vale. Sorry, also on Friday, Pascoe Vale 1. Pascoe Vale 0, Eastern Lions 1. Ramsey with the decisive goal from the penalty spot. Preston Lions 1. Bulleen Lions 2, a goal for Ishak for Preston Lions, Waterdale and Lofts for the Bulleen Lions in that particular Lions derby. I'm hard to talk about the Chaos League. It's also the Lions League, to be fair, as well. An important win for Werribee City, 1-0 over Brunswick City. Some high-scoring matches here. Langwarrin 5-1 over the Melbourne City NPL squad, who that Melbourne City finished with only 9 players on the pitch at the end of that one. Plenty of drama there. Also, we had another high-scoring one. Manningham United Blues 4, Brunswick Juventus 3 yesterday. A lot of drama there in that one as well. Also, 1 red card in that one. Manningham United's Ramirez scoring a hat-trick. And then Western United 4-1 winners in the big match yesterday against Kingston City. Goal for Bassetto, a couple for Laval, and Vickery on the score sheet as well, and Quoll with the solitary goal for the visitors, Kingston City. So a great result yesterday, Diogo. How did you view the match going into it? Certainly a resounding win afterwards.
Look, we went into the game confidence. We've been playing some good football. Obviously, it's, I've been telling the boys that ultimately at this point of the season, it's about results. But we have been playing some really good football and have been, unlucky not to do this to a lot of other teams this season. So it was good to finally, get some early goals and go into halftime with a decent lead. But we took a lot of confidence against Kingston last time we played, and we went down to 10 men after, I think it was 20 odd minutes. And in the second half, we played really, really well, and we probably should have won that game also. So the boys were confident. They've been playing well. They've been training well. A lot of the boys at the moment are getting some A-League experience as well, training with the seniors now that they're back. So, yeah, we were confident, I guess.
Now, Diogo, I know you just mentioned how the priority of these A-League clubs is obviously to develop players. But if we have a look at that ladder again, and we'll go through the NPL3 situation shortly, but it certainly looks like Caroline Springs, George Cross have been promoted, and Melbourne Victoria as well. So next year's competition could well have all 3 A-League clubs. That is assuming Western United doesn't get promoted, and we'll talk about that shortly. But, you're in the box set at the moment. You've got Northcote City and Bulleen Lions to come. How important, and you say it's all about results now, how important is it to escape the competition of chaos, but also as far as the development of players, how important is for the club to be in NPL and be playing at the highest league in the state to be able to expose your players to the best available standard outside the A-League?
Yeah, I think it's massive. If we start with the 23s, which is my team, it's massive because that way the senior coaches can see how close these players are to actually being A-League level, I guess. Yeah. So it's the closest competition to A-League. So, and they're getting exposed to playing against the best players in the state and some of the best players in the country that are not currently in the A-League. And if we go down to under 21s, massive again, because we see our under 21s play, and there's times like this week I think they won 8-0. So really, if we're trying to develop players to the under 23 level, then obviously facing stronger opposition every week, will also help their development. And then thirdly, as a club, we're able to attract really the highest quality players because more young players want to come to us, because if we're in NPL 1, when we're in NPL 3 or NPL 2, it's a little bit harder to attract these players when, they're able to play in NPL in the top league and also get paid. So, look, for me, it's massive, and it's very important, and it's just important for the development of these kids for me.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, exciting to hear some of the young players are training with part of the A-League squad as part of their pre-season, getting over to the hangar, I believe, is still where they're doing their training there. But some good young players, Max Bassetto, one of them with 13 goals this season. But it seems like the goals are being shared around and there's a lot of talent all across each line of play. But can we see a few of these players possibly stepping up and pulling on a shirt for the A-League side the next couple of years maybe?
Look, I'm not being biased, but I definitely think there's a lot of quality in the team and a lot of quality in different positions. But, football, sometimes it's what the A-League needs. You can have a great player, but they don't need a certain player, or the coach doesn't like a certain player. That's football, I guess. So, look, at the end of the day, it speaks volumes for the players. Obviously we are sitting in this position. Hopefully we do get promoted. And it shows that we do have that quality in here. And, look, ultimately, I'm preparing players for Western United.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's just like I said, it's football that some might go on and play at other A-League teams. And I guess, ideally we want them here at this club, definitely. But if not, I'm sure that we'll see some around the league.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Look, as far as next year, promotion or otherwise, there's a very real possibility that Western United, certainly the NPL side, could be playing out of the new facility in Tarneit. How close is that? I know it's already started. The club has started building it. How close or how realistic is it that will be in action in 2024?
Look, I'm not 100%, but I definitely know the grass is laid.
Oh, wow.
The synthetic I've been told is getting laid in a couple of weeks, which we've been told that's where we'll train out of. So I think it's very, very likely.
Yeah, fantastic. Wouldn't that be exciting? And I guess the fallback option, if assuming Western United does get promoted, there's City Vista as well, which is a fantastic venue as well. And the NPL Victoria competition will get another top class venue either way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I enjoy going past on the V line, going to work and checking out on the progress. And the floodlights are in place there, and they have been for a while now too, Tonch. So it's certainly looking good. Definitely. So where do you see the club? Potentially in the top flight, where we've seen other clubs such as Melbourne City, DIOGO, maybe suggesting they maybe don't want to play in the top flight of Victoria to develop their players. So you guys are certainly of the opinion that playing in the top flight is the place to be for your youngsters.
I think it's common sense. Whoever says that, I guess. Yeah,
we've had some great guests tonight. Tell you what, absolutely.
To me, if you want to produce players, you want to see where these kids are at, and like I said, you want to see. I'm not saying it's easy to do it in NPL2, but last year it was easy to do it in NPL3. Just say this year it's still hard, definitely, but you take that step to NPL1, and then you can kind of start really seeing, what kids are going to have a professional career and what kids are going to be unbelievable NPL players. And that's the reality of football. And unless you're in that top league, getting that exposure, like I said, because we have a look at NPL, I'm sure given the opportunity, there's players in there that could be playing at A-League clubs. We all know that. So they'll be facing those kind of players, experienced players that have played in the A-League before, that have now dropped down or played overseas, whatever it might be. Because sometimes there's better money floating around in this league than there is in the A-League anyway, so some will drop down. To me it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, it's just, it just baffles me that there might be clubs even thinking about maybe that's what they're just saying publicly because they're sort of mid-table and don't look like they're going to make it. But in reality, that immediately makes you different from some of the other A-League clubs, most notably Melbourne City. But if we do look at the NPL3 competition, because that's obviously going to have a direct effect on NPL2 next year. That if we look at the ladder there, Caroline Springs, George Cross on top. With the game in hand, Melbourne Victory 10 points ahead. So they're Nunawading City does have a game in hand, but pretty much they're secured. So Victory will be in that competition. Melbourne City will be in that competition, and obviously we as Westerners are hoping Western United will get promoted, and that way there'll be that real point of difference between Western United and the other two A-League clubs. So, mate, we're wishing you all the very best. Thank you for joining us at such short notice, and once again for being so patient. But looks like very, very exciting times both on and off the park at Western United.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thanks, Diego. All the best.
Yeah.
Good on you. Steve, haven't we had two brilliant guests tonight, and very honest and very frank in their I guess consternations about the situation at the moment. But they're not being diplomatic. They're not just trying to kind of make it fluffy and nice and all that. They're calling a spade tonight, aren't they?
Yeah, it's just refreshing not to hear the managers and any guests for that matter, I suppose, rolling out the cliches. We've heard them all before, but both of the boys tonight, Ryan and Diogo, have spoken their mind, and it's been good. It's a lot happening at Western United too. The CEO Chris Palavanis, who we've had on the show before back in the day, has announced that he's going to be stepping down at the end of the season. So the club will be searching for a new CEO for 2024. So. Yeah, a bit of change, and of course that venue as well. Yeah, it looks like it's not too far away, at least the training venue there, which has got a lot of potential to host certainly NPL level football and maybe some A-League games against the smaller clubs from the competition, of which there is a few. So that's an exciting proposition as well. Just needs a little bit more work done on probably accessibility, getting people in and out of there at the moment. But otherwise, the facility's looking great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Folks, we're going to take a very, very short break. Look, when we do return, we're going to have a look at that NPL3 competition a little bit closely. State League 1, Men's State League 2, and also we are going to look at NPLW. There were some sensational results in NPLW this weekend. So, folks, don't go away. Still a lot to get through tonight. Heaps and heaps, in fact, to get through. This is the Football Out West show.
Our name is derived from the Greek prefix macro, large. From the day we were born, this has been a promise for the future. We have grown through dedication, sweat, self-denial, faithful to our mission of being on the side of those who put themselves on the line. Through our name, we celebrate the greatness of those who believe there are no obstacles higher than their dreams. The courage to get back up after falling. The obstinacy of believing until the end. These are the values embedded in our logo. The Macron Hero. It's a celebration of sacrifice and tenacity. Up until your personal victory, until your arms are in the sky. Become your own hero.
Welcome back to the Football Out West show. Steve, let's go straight through the NPL3 results.
Yeah, this was match day 20 in the NPL3. Starting from Friday night, a win for relegation-threatened Essendon Royals, 4-1 over Burundara Kerry Eagles, who were sitting mid-table going into that match. Yesterday, Nunawading City 3-0 over the boys from Shepparton, the Goulburn Valley Suns. A big win for Caroline Springs George Cross on the road at Doveton, 5-1 winners there to seal promotion into the NPL2, their second consecutive promotion. Not a bad run, 2 years in a row. North Sunshine Eagles at home went down 2-1 to Beau Morris. Also, we saw Box Hill United 2-0 winners at home against that resurgent Ballarat City. They couldn't get the job done this week, and that sees them rooted to the foot of the table along in that relegation space with Geelong Soccer Club, who managed to get a point at Stead Park yesterday evening against the Melbourne Victory NPL side. 1-1 there, but promotion sealed for Caroline Springs George Cross, and if my mathematics are correct, also for Melbourne Victory as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic achievement by those two clubs. George Cross in particular last year securing promotion from State League 1 and now doing so again in NPL3. So they will be joining the likes of Bulleen Lions, Preston Lions, Melbourne City, and so many, a few other clubs that at the moment we don't know, possibly Brunswick Juventus, although they are fighting for a big spot there. At the other end of the competition standings, Geelong looking really bad at the moment. Ballarat City, they brought a 4-game winning streak to an end. So Essendon Roars and Beau Morris both winning those games on the weekend. So very important game. Geelong travels to Goulburn Valley Suns, and then at the in the final game of the season at Stead Park, they take on Beau Morris. And I'm tipping that could be a game. That could be a game that could decide that final relegation spot, because Beaumont is taking on Nunawading City. Nunawading City, look, even if it's mathematically possible, which I don't think it is actually, 7 points. No, they can't make it either. So that'll be interesting to see what Nunawading City do, because they are unable to, even mathematically, threaten Melbourne Victory in that second spot. So, look, it's certainly signed, sealed and delivered what's happening up the top there of NPL3, but down the other end of the competition, anything is possible. And look, I'm speaking very briefly to Ted Latomansky, the Geelong coach, earlier today. He was devastated. They outplayed the competition leaders, the then competition leaders, Melbourne Victory.
Yeah.
One of their players hit the post 3 times. They were on fire, Geelong, and they'll be really shattered that they didn't secure another 2 points. But that's just how it is, I guess. And let's now move on to NPLW, Steve, and we'll talk about sensational results.
Yeah.
2 huge sensational results in NPLW competition this week.
Yeah, a couple of big ones here. Friday night, Preston Lions 2-1 winners against the Bulleen Lions. Another Lion derby there as well.
Oh, well.
Henderson and Torpy with the goals for Preston there at BT. Connor and Janseski with a penalty kick for the Bulleen Lions. Calder United 2-0 winners against South Melbourne. They recently beat them in the Cup semi-final as well. And Calder's Kaiwa Hieda scoring a double there to ensure they got the points, and that leaves them sitting in third. Bayside United went down at home to Alamein, 3-2. Also, the FV emerging side at Southern United had a win, 4-2, and it was also a shock 4-2 win for Heidelberg United at the Burundara Carey Eagles venue yesterday. So shockwaves there. Heidelberg United, you can see them sitting down there in 9th, beating Burundara Carey Eagles, who went into that round sitting on top.
Yeah, so as you can see the ladder there, only one team gets relegated, we believe. And Southern United all year has been a team that's really, really struggled to do anything, to really get anything in this competition. But Football Victoria emerging, a lot of young players, and look, there's certainly a position for them in the top flight. But moving further up, it's been very, very close, very interesting. Preston Lions, look, potentially they could still get into the top 4. They're 2 games. They've got 2 games in hand, so there is a real possibility they could get there. South Melbourne have slipped a spot. Calder United have jumped into 3rd spot. So, look, a lot to play for, a lot of interesting things. Now, the NPL women's competition will be taking a break next week, Steve, like the men's counterpart, and that's because next week we've got the actually, the Nike FC Cup is coming up very, very shortly. It's in fact on August the 13th, so in about 2 weeks' time or thereabouts.
Yeah, pushed back an extra week, I think, so it could be played at the home of the Matildas, if I'm not mistaken.
And that is the reason
news. Why.
Yes. And that is the big news that has been announced by Football Victoria, that the game has been pushed back a week later so that it can be played at the home of the Matildas. So
yeah, and a good move there as well.
Absolutely.
To be said that, question marks about the Kingston Heath scheduling for the Doherty Cup semi-final, but no complaints about this one. This is excellent scheduling, and very happy to see this venue getting used for a purpose like this. And
100%.
Any kind of playoff games like this, this is it looks like a good venue to play these sort of things out there on Plenty Road.
Apart from being at the home of the Matildas, I think it's actually Football Victoria's headquarters coming, or they will be moving in there as well. So
yes.
Does that mean
if they haven't already, I think as well.
Yeah, does that mean future Doherty Cup finals as well?
Yeah, it might be a good place for that.
Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But there's also the Nike FC Cup community final between Casey Comets and Essendon Royals will also take place on that day. So it's going to be a huge day in women's football on that day. So Doherty Cup final next week, folks. And then that will be followed by the following weekend will be the ladies' turn with the Nike FC Cup. So that will be interesting. Let's quickly turn our attention to Men's State League 1, and then we'll also look at Men's State League 2. the situation, what is happening there. Firstly, to State League One, Steve.
Yeah, big weekend of State League One fixtures, as always, as we get towards the pointy end of the season. And let's just have a look at those ones now, if we can get those up on the screen. So we had Altona City 3-0 winners against Whittlesea United. That was on Friday night. That one was played at McIver Reserve. Of course, Altona City's venue, as we spoke to their coach a few weeks ago, is being rejuvenated. There was a 4-2 win at the Club Italia for the Brimbank Stallions over Whittlesea Rangers. It was honours even between Yarraville and Corio, also at McIver Reserve yesterday afternoon. FC Strathmore 3, Keilor Park 4 at Strathnava Reserve, and also Westgate 4-0 winners over Upfield at Ardea. The other result there, Tonchi Banyul versus Sydenham Park. I'm just missing that from my running sheet.
Sydenham Park, I've got that result. 2-0 to Sydenham Park. Yep, Sydenham Park
Beautiful.
winning that game to stay clear in second spot. And look, maintain that hope that they may get, they may take over Altona City at the top, but unlikely to happen. Once again, the big interest is down the bottom. That battle to avoid relegation. Strathmore have slipped closer and closer to the dreaded relegation zone. Banyul City and Keilor Park winning on the weekend. That's a big result against
big
Strathmore.
Result there.
Big result. Corio then overtaking that. Now we're same thing in the state leagues, as is the case with the NPL competitions. Next week it is a bye. There is no games being played, but then the following week, Corio taking on Altona City. That's going to be a tough game at home. Strathmore at home to Sydenham Park. Travel away to Sydenham Park. Big game that. Banyul City at home to Upfield. Now, Upfield have had a real up and down kind of a season, without a doubt. Whittlesea United hosting Keilor Park. So there's Corio and Strathmore are playing the top two teams. If you're a betting man, you say they're going to lose those games. Banyul City up against Upfield, that could be a very interesting game in 2 weeks' time. So, there's still, even though there's only 2 weeks to go before the season, or 3 weeks to go in this particular competition, there's still a lot of football to be played. So, very interesting times ahead. Steve, State League 2.
Yeah, round 19 recap for State League 2 Northwest, and we saw the matches. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong week. Apologies. This is good. This is good content right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. So State League 2, just missing a couple of scores from this one. Epping City 1, Altona North 1. So a draw there at Aurora Fields between those two sides. Albion Rovers 1, Geelong Rangers 0. Western Suburbs 6-1 winners over Mill Park, and I'm just missing the scores from Westvale and Hume. Also, Clifton Hill and Lalor.
Yeah, I don't have the Westvale Olympic versus Hume United game, so if anyone's got that result there. Clifton Hill defeated Lalor United 4-0. So Clifton Hill maintaining that top spot over Western Suburbs. A real battle happening there for the champions title. And at the moment, Clifton Hill doing very well because they've got the better goal difference, but certainly it's not a case that with 3 games to go, it'll be interesting to see in the next few rounds what happens. But round 20, let's have a look. Actually, round 20, once again, in 2 weeks' time, the pick of the games there. Clifton Hill taking on Westvale Olympic, and Western Suburbs, they travel away to Altona North. So they're the next 2 games, but geez, I tell you what, it's going to be an interesting culmination, probably more so in the state leagues than the NPL, because the NPLs are now starting to sort out their seasons, but it's right to the very, very end. And this, folks, this is why promotion and relegation is so good. If it's that exciting at the grassroots level, at the community level, so to speak, or whatever you want to call it, imagine what it would be like at the elite level in this country. We can only dream,
Tonchi. But look, one day we hope that we will live to see it.
Yeah, folks, that pretty much brings us to the end of the end of tonight's show. But before we do that, during the week, Steve, the Socceroos found out their path to the next World Cup qualification phase.
Yeah, so these matches will be played. This is the second phase. We get to skip the first phase. These matches will be played home and away between November this year and June of next year, up against Palestine, Lebanon, and either the Maldives or Bangladesh. If we do get the Maldives, Tonchi, maybe we can go for a Football Out West sponsored trip across there for that away fixture. What do you think?
Well, I'd certainly have no problems about that one.
Craig could be on board for that too.
Yeah, a big shout out to Craig. Also, he's having his own little what's the word? He's health issues or recovering from health issues. But Palestine, Lebanon, yeah, look, they're going to be tough games, especially depending where they are being played. I mean, they're minnows, so to speak, but you never know in this day and age. And this is, by the way, a joint qualification for not only the World Cup in 2026, but also the Asian Cup in 2027 as well. So lots of football happening there. Folks, as we said, next week there is basically a league-wide bye, if you like, with the Doherty Cup happening on the Friday night. But we'll talk all about the Doherty Cup on our Sunday show next week. We will also be addressing it in a special report on the National Second Division and where we stand with regards to that. We hopefully will get Nick Galatos on and maybe even some of the clubs as well that are involved in the bidding process at the moment. In the meantime, the big game tomorrow, the Matildas and Canada at 8 p.m. And then as a result, the following, or the Tuesday, the following night, that's when the Game of Two Halves podcast with a major announcement happening that will take place then. And I guess we've also got the Australia Cup the following week, so a lot to look forward to next week as well.
Yeah, looking forward to those Australia Cup games and hoping to get to as many of those as we can. We've got games at Melbourne Knights, over at Oakley. We've got a game at John Cain as well. So, yeah, plenty of up in Shepparton if you want to travel regionally. We've got plenty of Australia Cup action right here in our own backyard, and looking forward to trying to get to see some of those in person. It'd be great.
So if we think tonight was a big show, folks, next week's going to be even bigger. Let me tell you that it's going to be an even bigger show. So, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your company tonight, and we look forward to your company next Sunday as well. But before we do go, if you would like to advertise your business or you'd like to sponsor an episode, there aren't too many episodes left of the Football Out West show. Contact us via email at footballoutwest@gmail.com. That's footballoutwest@gmail.com, or send us a private message via our Facebook page, Football Out West News. We would love to hear from you. A big shout out to our major sponsor this season, NJT Carpentry and Home Builders Corp. Nick Trychevsky there from Sydenham Park. If it wasn't for them, we certainly would not have been around this year, and that we can definitely guarantee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much. On that note, Steve, have a great week, and we'll catch up with you next Sunday.
Have a great week, Tonchi. Enjoy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, folks.